Of all the wonderful and mystical powers Stephen Strange possesses, apparently Scooby-Dooing this crap is not one of them. Doctor Strange is quickly becoming the new Tony Stark of the MCU.
Call me sir.
And by that I mean he has a fun habit of saving the universe from threats that he is ultimately responsible for creating. We've already seen him tangle with the likes of Dormammu, Thanos, and depending on the variant, led a multiversal team against Ultron.
You'd have to find me first.
It's no secret that Doctor Strange has great power, but it goes so far beyond what we can even imagine. Here are some of Doctor Strange's greatest powers you may not have known, or at least forgotten that he had. This one should come as no surprise. Though to my recollection, I can't think of Stephen Strange actually using it in the MCU. In the comics, Doctor Strange has an impressive level of telepathic abilities. Now, he's no Professor X, but through the mystic arts, Doctor Strange can read minds and manipulate them.
Take a seat.
Now, I say he's no Professor X, but that's the gold standard. Doctor Strange is basically the silver standard when it comes to powerful telepaths in the universe.
Hello.
He even used his telepathy to take down one of the greatest beings in the universe, Galactus, by putting images from the darkest corners of the universe directly into his mind, reducing the Devourer of Worlds into a crying ball in the corner. It sometimes goes unnoticed that characters have powers that they can fall back on should they ever try to ditch the superhero gig. Forget all the fancy hand-waving and magic capes. Stephen Strange has near superhuman intelligence. The dude was an accomplished neurosurgeon long before he ever touched the mystic arts. Something tells me that takes a brain cell or two. On top of that, the speed with which Stephen learned magic is a testament to his level of intelligence. Stephen is multilingual. He learned Sanskrit in a very short amount of time in order to read the spellbooks that would make him a better sorcerer.
And?
Doctor Strange also once said that he got through medical school thanks to his photographic memory. All of these things really help contribute to the idea that Stephen has a genius-level intellect. When you add the knowledge of the cosmos and the mystic arts to that already big brain, it's easy to see why Doctor Strange rises above so many others. When facing the absolute terrors of the known multiverse, there's nothing like falling back on Old Reliable. Old Reliable in this case being shooting a beam out of your hand. Yes, you've probably noticed that Marvel's magic users' go-to weapon is shooting a concussive blast from their very fingertips. However, in Doctor Strange's case, these different forms of energy blasts have really cool names that you may not have known. Here's just a few to whet your appetite. There's bolts of bedevilment, crystals of Kandriar, daggers of Davaroth, and flames of Faltine. Yes, we all know that we've seen Doctor Strange utilize time travel in the MCU on a multitude of occasions, where he really wasn't allowed to.
Oh.
However, that was all thanks to the Eye of Agamotto, which in the MCU was actually the Time Stone. In the comics, let's just say the Eye is not that. Doctor Strange still has some level of time manipulation, however. In the non-physical realm, Stephen Strange can move at literally any speed. Using this power, he can travel through multiple dimensions, including time, in an instant. Also, Doctor Strange is stacked with power in the comics, as he has mental abilities to alter time, including freezing it, slowing it, and traveling through it all in an afternoon. He even has taught others this amazing power, making you realize how kind of irresponsible he is when you think about it. You really wouldn't think of this one, considering how little Stephen actually uses it. But behind all the magic and mysticism, Stephen Strange is actually pretty good with his fists. Now, he's no Shang-Chi, Black Widow, or even Hawkeye, but he can certainly hold his own. Like, he could probably at least take on the Leaper. The mystic arts isn't the only thing they teach at Kamar-Taj. Along with his sidekick in the comics, but Sorcerer Supreme in the MCU, Wong ensures that Stephen Strange stays in top fighting shape. Part of his daily training includes a sparring session. No magic allowed. His abilities are so understated, in fact, that he has even taken Wolverine in a fight, as well as the evil martial arts organization, The Hand. Most impressively, he has even defeated Dormammu, all with his fists. Personally, I think he was just showing off. Doctor Strange is immortal. Well, I mean, kinda. Doctor Strange has faced some of the wildest enemies of any Marvel hero, including the literal manifestation of death. As a result of this battle, Stephen Strange not only became fearless, which you know happens when you stare death in the face and win, but he actually gained some degree of immortality. He stopped aging and could no longer die of pesky old age. He was still vulnerable to physical attacks, so you know, a good old decapitation or stab to the heart still wouldn't be a very fun day. By passing this test, Doctor Strange became immune to disease as well, though he still does need to eat, breathe, and sleep. However, this was not the first time this power was achieved. Have you ever wondered why they're called the Ancient One? This power really makes you think that you should probably stop putting yourself in harm's way. Maybe make Wong go do all the fighting while you just retire to the library, huh, Steven? This next one is a power that we've seen Doctor Strange demonstrate before in the MCU. However, it was so brief that it may have slipped from your memory. Doctor Strange is able to make multiple copies of himself. These copies serve as an in-your-pocket ready-to-go army should you find yourself in a pinch against multiple opponents or a wrinkly-chinned purple alien. When Doctor Strange used this power against Thanos, the Mad Titan was quickly able to seek out the true Stephen Strange using the Soul Stone. It should also be noted that all of the copies moved in unison, meaning that I don't believe Stephen Strange has fully mastered this power in the MCU like he has in the comics. In the comics, his multiple copies are capable of moving freely and acting on their own. It might even be possible that the Soul Stone trick would not work on these copies, as each of them would have Stephen's soul as well. I hope we get to see him use this again, but based on the upcoming Multiverse of Madness, he may already have one too many Stephen Stranges to deal with. As we saw in Marvel's What If series, Doctor Strange has a shockingly frightening power. In order to gain more and more energy and magical ability, Doctor Strange has the power to absorb the life forces of any creature. He spent years absorbing magical beings from other universes in order to make himself strong enough to overcome an absolute point in time. These weren't exactly the prettiest creatures you've ever seen either, and most would think twice about literally absorbing them into their body.
Time to meet an old friend.
But Stephen Strange was desperate, and in the desperation we saw just how powerful this can be. He was able to become the most powerful being in his universe, so much so that his efforts led to the total destruction of it. This is definitely one of the more villainous powers that Stephen Strange possesses.
Wouldn't understand.
So I don't think it's incredibly likely that we would see the main Doctor Strange actively use it. Although I think simply sucking Thanos into his chest probably could have saved a life or two. After we saw the evil Doctor Strange from the Marvel What If universe absorb the life forces of several multidimensional creatures, we saw him drunk with power, including several new powers. One of his most impressive was the power to shapeshift. He was able to take the form of any of the creatures he had spent years absorbing, even being able to take on features of all of them at once. Evil Doctor Strange was even able to shift into the shadow of the alternate universe version of himself. Let's just say it makes him a master at hide and seek. After he ultimately absorbed the good version of Stephen Strange, the evil Strange was able to shapeshift into all the creatures he had absorbed at one time.
It's me, Christine.
If Doctor Strange didn't look like Benedict Cumberbatch already, I would tell him to absorb Benedict Cumberbatch and become a movie star using this power.
Okay.
Stephen Strange is sometimes too curious for his own good. However, sometimes he's just curious enough for the good of others. Doctor Strange has spent years tapping into all known and unknown sources of magic and mysticism. Throughout this time, Doctor Strange has learned to possess the spirits of ancient magical beings and focus them through the powers he exerts. The Crimson Bands of Cyttorak are one example. Doctor Strange can literally invoke powers of gods by actually channeling the very spirits of those gods through himself. This isn't exactly always the most ethical practice. The most famous example was during World War Hulk when Doctor Strange called upon a demon to try and stop the Green Rage monster. Let's just say it didn't work out and Strange got put in detention for even trying. This next power is one of the most understatedly powerful that a character can have. Just look at what Cersei of the Eternals was able to accomplish with her transmutation abilities. We have yet to see Doctor Strange demonstrate this specific power in the MCU, but it's essentially the equivalent of some of the powers of the Reality Stone, just on a smaller level. His powers of transmutation are somewhat limited, and he cannot create anything from thin air. Well, I shouldn't say anything. In the comics, he has turned guns into fireflies and objects into gold. A little more practice in this specific power could give him the ability to transmutate his greatest enemies into statues. Again, something that really could have been useful against the big purple alien that was actively trying to destroy half the universe. Get back to those books, Steven. Given the direction of the MCU and the parallel dimension the Sonyverse is going, this next power might come in handy for the good doctor to learn as soon as possible. Normally you need a wooden stake, some holy water, or at least a bit of garlic from your local supermarket, but vampires can be extremely difficult creatures to kill. After their tens of thousands of years of existence, however, you would think someone learned how to get rid of them a little bit easier. There's Blade and Morbius, but Doctor Strange has fought the big one, Dracula himself. Using an incantation called the Montesai Formula, Doctor Strange was able to turn every vampire on Earth into nothing but a pile of ashes. It was temporary, as years later vampires would return, but for crying out loud, we could have ended the Twilight movies at just one if Doctor Strange was around. Heroes like Doctor Strange have no shortness of enemies, and need to be on their toes at all times. They're called villains for a reason. They tend not to play fair. They will attack heroes in their weakest moments in order to get the upper hand. This likely means that he does have a pretty difficult time sleeping. Every time they fall into a deep sleep, they must subconsciously be thinking that they could be attacked at any moment. Well, Doctor Strange has certainly thought of this possibility. For one sleep cycle, Stephen Strange can chant a spell that completely protects him while he's unconscious. Unfortunately, like I said, this only works for one sleep cycle, so any unexpected napping or nodding off leaves the sorcerer completely vulnerable. When one of your greatest arch-nemeses is named Nightmare, it sounds like this power comes in handy more often than you would think. It's just gotta stink though, because Doctor Strange can never just have a big lunch and take that sweet 2 o'clock nap in the afternoon, lest he leave himself vulnerable to the evils of the multiverse.
Just a little higher.
An extreme violation of privacy, or an excellent opportunity to mess with people? You be the judge. Doctor Strange has a very interesting power called dream walking. In fact, Doctor Strange has said that this is the first lesson he learned on his journey to become a sorcerer. When going into his astral form, Stephen Strange has the power to enter the minds of those who are asleep. In many ways, it makes Doctor Strange a really good friend when he goes into your bad dreams and literally fights them to leave. This power helps introduce Stephen Strange to one of his greatest enemies, Nightmare. Nightmare preys on his victims by entering their subconscious while they sleep. The Hulk is great, but something tells me he'd be really ineffective against a foe like that.
Sun's going down. Sun's going down. That's it.
It is Stephen Strange who has the skills to not only protect the physical world, but your subconscious world as well. Doctor Strange has a heightened sixth sense. Sure, taste and smell are great, but how about using a mystical artifact to be able to achieve total universal awareness? By enhancing his consciousness through focused meditation, Doctor Strange can perceive any irregularities throughout the universe, including the hidden magical realm beneath the layer of reality. In the comics, the Eye of Agamotto aids Doctor Strange with this power as it allows him to sense anomalies throughout all of space and time. This gives Doctor Strange a serious heads up when extra-dimensional threats are headed his way. It really makes you wonder if Doctor Strange already knows that Kang is coming, and is sort of just deciding not to really do anything about it.
This is wild.
Except mess around helping a teenage boy nearly destroy his universe so that he can get into college.
That feels weird, but I'll allow it.
Doctor Strange has a very useful power that makes him probably the best member to have on your team.
You may regret that.
And I mean if you're doing anything. Saving the multiverse or trying to win your high school championship soccer game. Stephen Strange showed the ability to cast incredible protection spells. The dark version of Stephen Strange seen in the What If series used this power to protect the Guardians of the Multiverse.
The protection spell, you're welcome.
Killmonger, Party Thor, Captain Carter, T'Challa Star-Lord, and Gamora all received orange glowing body shields.
What is going on?
It's true that Ultron was able to weaken these with each punch as some of the magic would fade away with the more damage that it took. However, these are still incredibly helpful shields, as it prevented all of the members from basically just immediately being impaled. I know the dark version of Stephen Strange is more powerful than the one we know in the MCU,
Yes.
but my goodness, learning the spell should probably be the first thing our Stephen does. Just think, in recent memory alone, Tony Stark, Wong, and Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker were all stabbed while in the presence of the sorcerer. A simple protection spell would likely save a few trips to the hospital. This one is Stephen's bread and butter, and he uses it in every film as though it's his go-to move. But I bet you didn't know it had a name. Stephen more often than not chooses to use Eldritch Magic.
The warnings come after the spell.
This allows him to create glowing physical manifestations from thin air. He then uses these to build tools, weapons, and shields. That's right, the orange circles and whips that Doctor Strange so often manifests during his physical confrontations are all used thanks to the power of Eldritch Magic. Conjuring Eldritch Magic is one of the first things we see Strange attempting to learn in the group session at Kamar-Taj. He thought his hands were holding him back, but Master Hamir showed him that sorcery, including an impressive display of Eldritch Magic, is all in your head. We have already seen Doctor Strange travel to several different dimensions in the MCU. However, his dimensional powers reach far beyond what you may think. For example, Doctor Strange has the ability to travel between dimensions without even having to use his sling ring. In Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange sent Spider-Man and himself to the mirror dimension on his own. And then I guess he quickly forgot he could do that when Peter took his ring from him. In the comics, Strange's ability to travel between dimensions is so much more powerful. Especially in his astral form, Strange can walk between the lines of reality with ease. Based on the title of his upcoming film, I would like to think that Strange has been at least practicing this ability for the madness that will be unleashed, and all the dimensions he visits should be one wild ride. That or it was all a dream. How funny would that be?
Things just got out of hand.
Which of Doctor Strange's powers were you surprised to learn that he has? Be sure to make up some new energy beam names in the comments. And when you go to sleep, always be on the lookout for a strange man with a goatee.